Hey everybody, it's Neil here from Post to Post. Thank you very much for taking a couple of minutes out of your day to join me here. We're going to go through the entire NHL team by team, and I'm going to let you guys know who my favorite player is from every single team. I've done this video in the past, I believe twice actually, but I haven't done it in roughly 2 years, so it's time that this gets updated a little bit, and well, things have changed. Things have definitely changed. Some will remain the same. Some players have retired. Some players didn't exist the last time. I mean, they existed, they just didn't play in the NHL is what I'm kind of getting at there. So we're going to go through the entire NHL, and then I'm going to tell you at the end the nationality kind of list of, of all the 31 names on here. Actually, a couple of teams have 2. So there's more than 31 players technically on this list, but I've added up all the nationalities. I want to share that with you at the end as well, because it's not something that I was even paying attention to going through this. And then when I was done, my whole list here, I decided to add it up, and it's interesting, very interesting. Okay, so let's start off with Tampa Bay. This is in no particular order. I wrote these down, I believe, maybe randomly. I did this last week. I can't actually remember. It doesn't matter. Tampa Bay. My favorite player off the Tampa Bay Lightning is Braden Point, and this started back in the 2016-2017 season, which I think maybe was his rookie year. And to me, he was just... He's a player that kind of makes some flashy moves, but for whatever reason doesn't have that elite level status player like a Stamkos or a Hedman or a Kucherov or something like that. And I think it's because of those players on that team. If Braden Point was on a different team, if he was on New Jersey or, I don't know, somewhere else, Minnesota, maybe he would have that elite player status. But he doesn't for whatever reason around the league because he plays for Tampa Bay. But he is an elite player. And I just liked how responsible he was as a young kid. A lot of young kids come in and they make a lot of mistakes. I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan, trust me. I've been through it with a lot of the players. But Braden Point came in super responsible, good head on his shoulders, feisty. So I really appreciated his game, and just watching him progress as a player and recently winning the Stanley Cup was really awesome. St. Louis. Speaking of young players, this might surprise a couple of you, Robert Thomas. And this actually goes back prior to him entering the NHL, and I can't quite remember if it was before he was drafted or just after he was drafted, playing for the London Knights. And I became interested in him because it was rumored that the Montreal Canadiens may be interested in Robert Thomas, and I couldn't remember if it was to draft him or to trade for him. It was years and years ago, but I remember watching him play prior to entering the NHL for that reason. I was like, man, this kid's like... This kid plays very well. Again, responsible, kind of like Braden Point. You'll see a bit of a trend here. I prefer consistent, responsible players versus the super flashy ones. There's a couple on this list, but I just liked Robert Thomas's game. He is not a superstar, but he is that depth player, and I really appreciate that. Vancouver, this hasn't changed, I don't think, in 3 or 4 years. Bo Horvat. I love Bo Horvat. He is not only one of my favorite player on Vancouver, he's one of my favorite players in the entire league. So big love for Bo Horvat. The Islanders, this might surprise someone. It's not, it's not Barzal or it's not anyone else on the team that you might pick. Beauvillier. I love Anthony Beauvillier, and I think he's just that perfect depth player, kind of like Robert Thomas, more so than Robert Thomas, but Beauvillier just contributes like everywhere on the ice. He's, again, just a definition of a depth player, and I appreciate that. Chicago, easy one for me. I love Alex DeBrincat. He was, I believe, technically supposed to be drafted by Montreal, but he was a part of the Andrew Shaw trade, the initial one, if I'm not mistaken. So Montreal gave up that pick, and that pick ended up being Alex DeBrincat. If that trade didn't happen, Montreal almost certainly wouldn't have drafted Alex DeBrincat, but I just see Alex DeBrincat as the Montreal Canadiens draft pick, and that makes me angry. And I really like him as a player. He's a small player, but he plays a big game. That's pretty cool. Washington, Alexander Ovechkin. When Crosby and Ovechkin entered the league, I had just entered college, actually, 2004, 2005, around there, 2005, and Justin, who you might know from Hands Down Hockey, that's where he and I met as college back in late 2004, and he was a big Crosby fan prior to him even entering the NHL. Watched him in the QMJHL, and he was so high on Crosby. And Crosby's okay. He was the next big thing, and I prefer to cheer for the underdog, not that Ovechkin is an underdog, but I just decided to cheer for Ovechkin just to spite Justin a little bit. So We kind of went back and forth like that a little bit. He had Crosby, I liked Ovechkin, and I just followed Ovechkin's career since then. It was wonderful seeing him win the cup. I don't like his play style of just basically standing still on the dot and firing away. It works for him. It's great. He's probably the best goal scorer in the past 20 years or more. But I just love him. His personality, amazing. Edmonton, it's not Draisaitl. It's not Darnell Nurse. It's not McDavid. It is Yamamoto. I love Yamamoto. Again, a player that I followed prior to entering the NHL, prior to him even being drafted. I was really hoping that Montreal would be able to snag him. Small player, depth player, maybe not necessarily underperforming, but his potential was a little bit higher than current value. But he's getting a lot better, and I love to see it. I love to watch him play on the Spokane Chiefs before that as well. Anaheim, this has not changed since I started here on YouTube 4 years ago. Rickard Rakell. There are a lot of players on Anaheim that you could love. Getzlav, Perry, originally when he played there, Gibson. There's a lot of awesome players throughout the years in Anaheim, at least since I started on YouTube. But it's always been Rickard Rakell for me. Super underrated. Maybe not now. He's definitely slowed down. I'm not even arguing against you. He has definitely declined. But he was very underrated for 1 or 2 years. Probably the most underrated player in the NHL, at least one of those years, around 2017. And I just like I like his personality, I like his play style, and I hope he picks it back up. Winnipeg, easy one for me. Well, not really easy. There's a ton of players on Winnipeg I like, but I love Kyle Connor. Very underrated, amazing goal scorer, fast, looks a little goofy, and I like it. He's just a different lad. Dallas, Jamie Benn. He is the definition of the perfect captain, in my opinion. He will fight. He will defend a player and fight someone. He has no involvement in the play. He's not emotionally invested in the play at all. But he sees his player, sees one of his teammates. Maybe he gets hit and it was a dirty hit, or maybe it's a big guy picking on his little teammates, and he stands up and fight. He's not involved in it, but he can chuck him. He'll hit. He'll score. He'll do everything, and he'll lead. And I really appreciate that as a captain. Definitely an honorable mention here, though. Kiviranta. Close to my heart. The Maple Leafs. This, as a Canadiens fan, this one's a little tough, but surprisingly, there are a lot of players on the Maple Leafs that I do like. But I'm going to go with Joe Thornton, maybe the untypical pick because he's new to the team, but I've followed Joe Thornton since he entered the NHL. When I was, in high school, doing hockey pools and stuff, and picking Joe Thornton because he was the best player in the league almost, and it was a lot of fun. So watching Joe Thornton is basically more than half of my life, so I've always appreciated his game. He's played for the Boston Bruins and now the Toronto Maple Leafs, two of Montreal's biggest arch rivals, so he plays for the wrong teams, but I do like him as a player, and he's got that beard. How could you not like the beard? Vegas Golden Knights, William Karlsson. I had the pleasure of watching Karlsson play in the playoffs in 2018 against Winnipeg in Game 3, I believe it was, or maybe Game 2. But it was so cool to see him play, and the entire team played, to be honest. But I just, that was the breakout year for him, and he was underrated before that. That was his year where he really proved himself. Now he's declined a little bit since then, but still a player that I absolutely love. Minnesota, Kevin Fiala. I love Kevin Fiala for literally no reason. I don't know if it's his name. I don't know if it's his play style. I honestly don't know. I've just always gravitated towards watching Kevin Fiala when they played for Nashville or Minnesota. I just like I just like him. That's all I gotta say. Pittsburgh, Jake Gensel. Very underrated. He gets maybe more points than he should playing with Crosby, but still, he's a small player. He plays a big game, and I appreciate that. Philadelphia, Carter Hart. How do you not like Carter Hart? He's so young, but he's already broken into the NHL. Maybe not as consistent as a lot of people were hoping, but he has had amazing runs where he's looked so strong and kept Philadelphia in games. So there's not a ton of goalies on here, but Carter Hart got to be on my list. Calgary, Michael Backlund. Just a depth player, not a Gaudreau or a Monahan, just a true depth player. He wears my favorite number 11. I've got him on my retro jersey, so man, I love me some Backlund. Colorado, the team I'm supporting in this video, or showing off, it's going to be Nathan McKinnon. I live in Fredericton, New Brunswick. I've lived in PEI for most of my adult life. Back here and just recently moved back as of last year, I guess 2 years ago now, to Fredericton, New Brunswick. But McKinnon, he's a Scotian boy, and I appreciate the local boys, even though it's not the same province. I still consider anyone who was born in Atlantic Canada to be local, and I gotta support him. So Nathan McKinnon, how do you not like Nathan McKinnon? He's a character as well. New York Rangers actually have two. One is Capo Caco. With a name like that, how do you not like him? I mean, he's incredible. And then Georgiev, which is a name that I just love to say, and he's just different. I don't know why, he's just different. Arizona, Connor Garland came out of nowhere and just played unreal. Probably the most underrated player in the NHL. I would argue top 3 for sure, and I might have to sit down and have an hour-long argument with you about maybe him being first. But I really like Connor Garland. Fast, so fast, and plays an awesome game. Buffalo, Carter Hutton. This one was actually extremely difficult. There's not a lot of players on Buffalo that I actually genuinely like. No offense to Buffalo. It's not that I dislike anyone in Buffalo. I just don't like anyone. I don't know why. It's just I'm cheering hard for Buffalo, but there's just not any player that I just super gravitate towards. But I do like Carter Hutton. Montreal is my favorite team. I have 2 written down here. Jake Allen, who is from Fredericton, New Brunswick, where I live. So Jake Allen's been my favorite player in the NHL since Saku Koivu left. So big thumbs up for Jake Allen. He'll always be my favorite player in the NHL until he retires or moves on. And then Joel Armia. I love me some Finns, and I had to put him on this list. He drives me crazy, though, sometimes. He takes so many stupid penalties. It honestly aggravates me so much, but I still gotta love him. San Jose, super easy one for me. Timo Meier. Love Timo Meier. He was on my first hand-stitched jersey from Cool Hockey, and that was a really special jersey for me. And I picked him because he's just one of those players that, for whatever reason, I just gravitate towards. He's one of my favorite players in the entire NHL, let alone the San Jose Sharks. Little shout-out to Kevin Labanc as well, but Timo Meier is my guy. Carolina, Sebastian Aho. I mean, how do you not like Sebastian Aho? Small kid, thin kid, but he's not afraid to throw around the body a little bit and gets feisty. He doesn't often do it, but I appreciate when he does. Very skilled player, and I just love watching him go to work. Boston, I actually have 2 here. As a Canadiens fan, it's not really ideal for me to cheer for anyone on Boston, but I have to be completely honest. There are more individual players on the Boston Bruins that I like versus the Montreal Canadiens, my own team. There are a ton of Boston Bruins players that I like, so this one was difficult, but I added 2 down here because I just had to have 2. Jake DeBrusk reminds me of DeBrincat a little bit. Small player, feisty, will chuck his weight around a little bit. The little that he has, he plays a feisty game, and I appreciate that. And then Yaroslav Halak. As a Canadiens fan, watching his run in 2010 was one of the best hockey memories that I actually have as a Canadiens fan, and just a general hockey fan. So wherever he went after that, I followed him like a hawk. Florida Panthers, Jonathan Huberdeau. He's the ideal player. He is the definition of the player that you want in your team the most. Yeah, there's Ovechkin and there's Bergeron, who would be amazing on a team, but to me, Jonathan Huberdeau is pretty much the perfect all-around player. I love everything about his game. He wears a great number as well, so big thumbs up to Huberdeau. New Jersey Devils. This one might surprise a couple of people, but it is Pavel Zacha. I, for whatever reason, really, really like Zacha. He has declined, but I got a chance to watch him play in Summerside during the Rogers Day or Hockey Day in Canada or whatever. I think it was O'Leary won that, and they had the game in Summerside, and Ottawa played the New Jersey Devils, so I got to see Pavel Zacha in person. I was really excited about it, and before the game, I told Dad, he's going to score a goal, and he did. So shout out to Pavel Zacha. LA, super easy one. I've cheered for this player for pretty much a decade or more. Anze Kopitar. Where's my favorite number? He is very consistent usually. He had a couple years where, he's, I don't know, maybe he was eating something wrong, but I absolutely love Anze Kopitar. Ottawa. This was difficult because there actually is a lot of players on Ottawa. I mean, the team has changed so much recently, but all these new players coming in, I'm very excited to watch. But I chose Chabot because to watch him do what he did last year, just last year alone, as a young kid, play all those incredible minutes, throw the body, score some goals. Just watching him do what he did on, no offense, Ottawa fans, not a good team. Like, generally not a good team. But watching him do that is amazing. I really appreciate Thomas Chabot. Next up, Nashville Predators. Roman Josi is kind of like Jamie Benn in a way. Jamie Benn is a little bit more feisty, a little bit more in your face. But Roman Josi is more calm most of the time. But that's the best thing I like about Roman Josi. He'll be calm 95% of the time, and then he'll be super physical, or he's not afraid to chuck the mitts every now and then. I've seen him get pretty aggressive, which is awesome. Very responsible, very skilled, very underrated in the NHL. Big fan of Roman Josi. Columbus. This might throw a couple of people off, but very underrated player, new player in the NHL, Alexander Texier. Just watching him in the playoffs last year was honestly just a real treat. I can't wait to see the progression of Texier and where he goes and what he does. Columbus isn't filled with a ton of players that are on top of every statistical list in the NHL. They're not in every highlight reel, but they're filled with a lot of just like genuine good players that I like from a personal level and also as a player level. So this one was difficult, but Texier was my choice. And then Detroit, the last one on my list, is Filip Zadina. So the reason I like Zadina is not because he's some amazing player or he got drafted high or anything like that. I actually followed Zadina quite a bit because he played in the QMJHL, and at the time I lived in Charlottetown, so I got to see him come play quite a bit. Out of every player on this list, Zadina is the player that I've seen play the most in person. Haven't seen him play in the NHL in person, but I've seen him play lots in junior in the QMJHL, so he had to be on my list for sure. Now, like I said at the beginning, I was going to add up the nationalities and kind of give you the breakdown. I'll put this on the screen here as well. So as far as Canadians go, and this does almost kind of match the general statistics, the averages overall in the NHL, so there's not really any shockers there. But the Canadians, there were 13 Canadians on my list. There were 5 Americans. Actually, I think I added some on this list after I did this, so the numbers might not match exactly. 13 Canadians, 5 Americans, 1 Russian, 3 Swedes, 3 from Switzerland, 3 Finns, 1 French from France, 2 from the Czech Republic, 1 from Slovenia, and I don't have Halak on here, but he is from Slovakia. And I think I added Georgiev late as well, so he might have to be added to this. I can't remember exactly, but just a little interesting exercise there at the end to go through the nationalities. Again, not intentional, never made any pick on my list based on nationality, but just kind of interesting to see them being added up. So thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking a couple of minutes out of your day and joining me here. If you're new, please hit the subscribe button. If you like this video and want to see more like this, please hit the like button, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Adios.